Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a dynamic show for you this afternoon. First and foremost, let's talk about how one black running group has filed a major lawsuit against the Boston Marathon claiming racial discrimination. We'll give you the latest details as we check in with
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, there we go. Working out the kinks. Welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation, folks. We got a lot of great discussions for you as we're going to be checking in later on, talking about supporting black entrepreneurs here in the city of Los Angeles, how one organization is doing that. Also, later on, we're going to be discussing how we're honoring black jockeys and how black jockeys will be honored for horse racing at the industry's biggest race at the Kentucky Derby. We'll have that. But first, let's check in with our sister Amber Webb-Sims, who's an attorney, co-host of the Broke-ish podcast. And she's going to talk to us about two things. One is a major lawsuit that was filed against the Boston Marathon by a black running group. We'll have that discussion. And later on in a moment, we'll also talk about how black men are wanted for former President Donald Trump's hush money trial. Really? Now you need black men to help you in a little jam, Mr. Former President? Okay. All right, let's check in with my sister Amber, who's always bringing us her insight and, of course, some of her legal expertise on the issues. Amber, welcome back to the culture. How are you this afternoon?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Always a pleasure to have you. All right, let's first talk a little bit about this black running group that has filed a major lawsuit against the Boston Marathon. This is the group of the Trailblazers Running Company, and they're filing a lawsuit. The Lawyers for Civil Rights, LCR, filed the suit on behalf of Trailblazers Running Company against the Newton Police Department and the Boston Athletic Association. And let me just share with folks what this means and what does this lawsuit entails. Take a look at this. Let's quote one. Thank you. That the LCR filed this lawsuits against Trailblazers Running Company, against Newton Police Department, BAA, Boston Athletic Association, asking the court to enjoin racial profiling and harassment against the running group and its members. In addition, The group seeks redress for emotional distress and trauma caused by last year's racial profiling incident here. And, this is an issue that we're seeing. Let's throw up quote number 2, please, Lisa, and I want to get Amber's take on this. According to the complaint, which was filed in a federal court in Massachusetts during the 2023 race, the MPD, Newton Police Department, singled out spectators from Trailblazers Running Company and other running crews that serve primarily people of color, racially profiling, targeting, and harassing them. This allegedly occurred near mile 21, where the group organized a designated cheer zone and had extended the invitation for other running groups led by people of color to join, per the complaint. More than 100, mostly people of color spectators were gathered together. Wow. Wow, Amber. Major, major lawsuit here. Talk to me. What do you make of this? And is this a lawsuit that you think that the Trailblazers running group will be able to win?
Well, I think the Trailblazers are definitely taking a page out of the NAACP's handbook and how they chose to file their original complaint with the court. Because one of the things they did, like the Trailblazers with civil rights litigation, is they included documentary evidence, which is normally not something you have to do when you file a complaint or a lawsuit. Despite what a lot of people think, you actually don't have to include evidence. You have to lay out your allegations in accordance with the laws that you are seeking to file your lawsuit under. So what they did was they included photographs to show how they were having their people treated differently than other spectators at different mile markers. So for example, they included a photograph of a demonstrator feeding a runner a donut, of demonstrators being allowed to cross the lines and celebrate and congratulate runners. And then they showed documentary evidence of how the primarily Black and brown celebrators at mile 21 were being treated differently. And so I think they are definitely coming out of the gate swinging to show that they have a viable 14th Amendment violation that they are alleging in seeking this recourse against the Newton Police Department and the Boston Athletic Association.
So if this is the situation and this is something that they're doing right before the next marathon that kicks off this year in a few weeks, but they're already looking at trying to at least make some headway on this. How far will this particular case go given the time frame that we're talking about here?
So generally, lawsuits are marathons and not sprints, which means that they can take a while. But part of what they are seeking here is injunctive relief in joining the Newton Police Department from policing the mile 21 marker the same way that they did last year. And that is a type of emergency relief. So we can expect a ruling on that part of the lawsuit at least pretty fast, because obviously the runners want that part of the lawsuit resolved so that their spectators will not be subject to the same type of conduct this time that they were allegedly subjected to in 2023. So I suspect we'll have a ruling on the injunctive part pretty fast. The part where they're seeking money damages and all of that could carry on, even into the 2025 race. So we might not hear a final judgment on that for a while, but we'll probably hear something on the injunctive relief part pretty soon.
So they're saying in the complaint, Amber, that this has been a tradition for the last 4 years, arguing that this mile marker is of special importance. According to Trailblazers, they said it stands as a key place where runners of color are acknowledged and celebrated, helping create a powerful and affirming experience for runners of color. But during that race, Newton police officers allegedly formed a human barricade separating them from the course. So, for something like this, it would seem like video would be the critical part of this whole process. Am I thinking this correctly?
No, you're absolutely right. That's why I said that earlier that they were taking a page out of the NAACP Civil Rights Litigation Handbook, including that documentary evidence with the complaint. So I suspect they will have video evidence later on, but for now they have attached pictures showing white spectators clearly engaging with the runners, not being subjected to police harassment or police interaction when they were getting close to and interacting with the runners, which begs the question, why all of a sudden are things being handled differently if these allegations are true at mile 21 than they are at places where predominantly white onlookers congregate? Because why are people being allowed to feed the runners, congratulate the runners, touch the runners at other mile markers, and then you are raising it to a different level of enforcement at a different mile marker? And if the only distinguishing characteristic that is different is race, then that actually does run afoul of the 14th Amendment.
All right, we're going to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's continue to talk a little bit about this. Plus, Amber, I got to get your take on this effort from Trump's lawyers in this hush money trial, this criminal trial, where they are actually seeking Black men to be on the jury.
Child.
Amber.
I'll save my thoughts.
Amber, we're just getting heated up, y'all. Amber Webb is joining me. Y'all know how we go. I want you to post your comments, and I didn't even mention, big shout out to y'all, the Online Culture crew. But thank y'all so much for tuning in. Make sure y'all post your comments as we stream it on Big Brother Roland Martin's social media page, on his Facebook page, on his YouTube channel. I would love to get your take on this case around the Boston running group and also what's going on with this Trump trial. This is the second day of the trial. Jury selection started yesterday, and so we're talking about it. I want to get your take on it. So stay with us. We still got a lot more to cover here with Amber Webb Sims and you right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
Game on. State of the Union 2024. Huge night for President Joe Biden.
This was a CVS receipts type of night.
He dragged the hell out of the Supreme Court. And he said, y'all gonna see the power of women.
Trump's brain is melting as we speak.
We want to organize from a place of strength. There's no confusion whatsoever about what they've done and what they plan to do.
What Donald Trump is doing is presenting a fallacy.
He is convincing them that he's all in it for them, when in fact he's all in it for himself.
We do not feel Joe Biden, in spite of the success that have taken place during this administration economically. There are too many things where we do not feel like he's had our back.
You should also be investing in the barbershops and the beauty salons and the hookah bars and the folks who are going to the club, and there's a way to actually get them registered because we've done it before. But if you don't have folks who understand that dynamic, then you're missing a big opportunity.
So we said we just celebrated. For what? Why don't you go to celebrate rather than recommit yourself to the fight if the very thing we went to celebrate has been gutted?
Republicans did not support a lot of the bills that were necessary to keep the country fluid. You can't only love your country when you win, right?
Oh, no. You guys don't want another $2 trillion tax cut?
This was absolutely the knockdown, drag out that we were really waiting for.
Black voters are the base. They're the most important base of the Democratic Party. There was very few language in this speech. At the time, we see an attack on Black history, an attack on DEI. The end of the BLM racial reckoning thing has come to a complete end because there was nothing in this speech for that.
Our movement has never been grounded in two-party politics in this country. All of our movements ultimately get co-opted by a state that is anti-Black.
They called the old because they knew the way, and they called the young because they were strong. And I believe there is a good combination of that, but we can have ideas and we can have visions and dreams, but we have to have our young people also working beside us because they are strong, and they will run that race, and they will run it to the end.
Activists, organizers, and young people have been pushing this administration to be on the right side of history and to do something about the issues that they care about.
While the Ukraine and Palestine are critical issues, they are not the only global issues.
Not a single Black person who should ever let it come out their mouth that I'm tired because there is somebody else who came before us who didn't stop fighting.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. We've been checking in with my sister, Amber Webb-Sims, who's an attorney and co-host of the Broke-ish podcast that can be heard on all streaming platforms. And Amber was just bringing us up to speed and giving us some understanding and insight about this case with the Boston running group Trail Blazers, as they have filed a lawsuit just a few days ahead of the 2024 Boston Marathon, alleging that their 14th Amendment rights were violated during last year's race. So my question to you, Amber, is: do you think that this is going to create the type of change? You know, the conversation right now about, if you talk to folks about Boston and how Black folks have historically been treated in Boston, racism is at the central part of those conversations. Do you think this will push the needle any further, that it will open up the doors for some different discussions about Boston and its culture?
Well, yeah, I think that this definitely creates the possibility for that, because remember, the federal lawsuit not only creates the opportunity for there to be money damages, but the federal judges have a lot of latitude in creating frameworks to create a pathway for future accountability, you know. And so they can, for example, order the Newton Police Department to turn over certain data, to turn over certain information about how they are policing, who they are arresting, to ensure compliance with whatever federal ruling comes down. So, I mean, it's not a perfect solution. In a perfect world, we really want to overhaul and a reimagining of policing, right? Because we know that American policing is rotten to its core and is a direct linear descendant of chattel slavery. But in the meantime and in between time, it is important for groups like Trailblazers to ring the alarm on the federal level when they feel like there are instances of racialized policing happening, because really that's the best recourse we have right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's going to be interesting to see how the city of Boston is moving forward. I remember hearing the mayor talking a little bit, this was some months ago, where the mayor apologized to the Black community for its racist policies of segregation and redlining and all of those things. So it seems like there could potentially be some accountability that the city of Boston may take. But when you have entrenched racism, deep-seated racism, it takes time before you can uproot that. And even in a simple thing of a running event, how it can be just something simple to being something very, very complex. And I think that's the interesting part about this story, that it's just a running event. Like, why make it a big deal if runners are saying, look, we want to use this mile marker, we want to create a cheer zone, and then, you know, and you still like, oh no, we're going to do a balloon arch here, we're going to make it harder for Black, you know, spectators and Black runners to intermingle with the crowd. And it's just like, bro, we got to fight for every single inch of respect and humanity. And there's always this underlying fear, like, well, it's going to be returned, it's going to be reciprocated. And it's like, nah, it's not. We just want to be respected as the human beings that we are, and we deserve
it. Exactly. And I will say, because a lot of times when these types of lawsuits are filed, Black people particularly are accused of being overreactive. We are accused of running to court. But the Trailblazers had several conversations with the Newton Police Department, with the Boston Athletic Association leading up to this lawsuit. And they were not able to reach an agreement. And the chief of the Newton Police Department stated with his whole chest that he stood by everything that he did. And so in cases like this, where you talked about, for example, the level at which policing is entrenched, it's very difficult sometimes to get the state actors to recognize the extent to which their behavior is problematic, which oftentimes leave people no choice but to pursue the court as the only alternative to get meaningful change to occur.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is, like I said, we're going to have to keep our eyes on it as we look at this situation. Well, folks, we're going to take another quick pause. When we come forward, Amber, let's talk about how President Trump's defense team and his hush money trial are taking on a new strategy, and that is to look for Black men to sit on the jury, as a juror. Wow. Really? This is going to be interesting. We'll talk a little bit about this defense strategy and a whole lot more as we bring some coverage of the hush money trial, the criminal trial that President Trump is in, that started earlier this week. Folks, stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
I need you to scream for your new beginning. 5, 4, 3, 2. I need you to shout for it. I need you to shout for it. It won't always be like this. Sooner or later, it's gonna work in your brother's favor, in your sister's favor. They shall not die. They shall not die. They shall not die. I want you to embrace somebody and tell them welcome to the greatest season of your life. Hug somebody, welcome.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation, joined by one of our great legal contributors, Amber Webb Sims, who is an attorney and co-host of the Broke-ish podcast. And y'all make sure y'all tune in to Amber, because she's always got something to say, talking about the stuff that's just broke-ish. The broke stuff. So I'm so happy to have my sister joining me. All right, so let's talk about defense strategies. Amber, this is right in your neck of the woods.
Yes, yes.
But this is the weirdest defense strategy I think I've heard before in a long time, right?
It's not that weird.
Say it again?
It's not that weird, and I'm going to tell you why, but go ahead and finish.
You want to tell me why? All right, so here's the situation, y'all. Former President Donald Trump, we all know that his hush money trial started yesterday. They are in the jury selection phase of this trial. Now, the defense strategy, those who are the lawyers for Trump are saying, how can we ensure that we get an acquittal in this criminal trial? Hey, I know. How about we reach out and try to get as many Black men on the jury, because Black men paid porn stars? I'm not sure. Anyway, this is a very real strategy that that President Trump's defense attorneys have started to do, as they're seeking young Black men jurors who they believe could be persuaded to acquit the former president. It was reported in the New York Times on this past Sunday that the lawyers are hoping to spot sympathizers and will focus on younger Black men and white working class men to be on the jury. Now, Amber, I'm going to give you a chance to go in and do what you do best, which is what the hell kind of strategy is that? And how racist is that you want to try? This is the same guy, and I'm going to just put this in a proper context. Trump is the same guy that when stuff happens with black men, he's the first to say that, you know what, we're animals, we're lower than, we're scum, we're doing all of these things. He talks so bad, he denigrates our very existence. But you want us to sit on the jury to hear your story and to be a potential sympathizers?
Yes.
Okay, talk to me, Amber. What's going on here?
So I'm going to tell you why. This is a very well-known strategy. I'm a former family violence prosecutor, and there are a certain sliver of cases where particularly Black men are thought to be very effective jurors, according to a lot of juror research. And one of those types of cases are cases that have to do with interpersonal dynamics between men and women. And there are a lot of practitioners, lawyers, trial practitioners who play on the pathology that is deeply rooted in the Black community. That's sort of what happens in our house stays in our house. So when something happens between a man and a woman, it's supposed to stay between that man and that woman. And that is why the disinformation campaign regarding what the real issue is about this Stormy Daniels thing has been so effective. Trump's team has done a masterful job of making this about, well, it's not illegal to pay somebody hush money. If he wants to give that woman money to keep an affair private, that's his business. And so that is a trope and a pathology they are trying to play off of. However, that is not the legal issue. The legal issue is not that he paid someone to keep an affair private. It is that the funds were paid and then illegally mischaracterized as election funds when they were paid back to Michael Cohen, Trump's former attorney. So right. Donald Trump had his former attorney take out a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, to pay it so that it would fly under the radar because loans are not income according to the federal government. So he took the loan out, paid her, and then when he was reimbursed by the Trump campaign, that happened out of campaign finance money. And those funds were characterized as reimbursements for legal, legitimate campaign expenditures. And that is the issue. But what Trump's attorneys are hoping to do is to muddy this and make this about a man trying to keep his personal business personal and knowing that that is something that deeply resonates with Black people who have historically been stripped of the rights to privacy and autonomy within their own family. And so this idea of keeping personal business personal deeply appeals to Black male jurors particularly. They are trying to play on that trope to distract from what the real issue is.
So I'm trying to understand. Amber. Where does Black men? Where does trying to bring Black men onto the jury have to do with this? Is this because it seems a little? I'm offended because you try to say that as a man, I'm supposed to ride with another man who's trying to keep his personal affairs private. Right.
That's exactly what they think. That men
so it's
are
supposed to be like, hey, men do men things and we cover up with one another.
Yes, you are hitting the nail right on the head. That is exactly what they are trying to, that is the pathology they are trying to capitalize off of. This idea that men will be sympathetic to another man and all he's trying to do is keep his personal business personal. But that is not the issue. That's the issue they made it about in the trial. You can keep your personal business personal all you want. What you cannot do is lie about it and take funds that legally have to be earmarked for legitimate campaign expenses and use those funds to reimburse your lawyer for paying off hush money and then lie about what that money was used for. That is what you cannot do. But they are hoping to muddy that and really just say, oh, this was a man who was trying to keep his family intact. And they know that the people who are most likely to resonate with that argument are young males.
All right, well, you know what? Let's ask some Black men that are always in the chat. I love my brothers in the chat. I love the brothers of the Culture Crew. Guys, is this the case? do you think that this is a good strategy for Trump's defense attorneys to take on to try to get an acquittal? And you know, it makes me go back to two things. It makes me go back to that staged appearance that we saw at Chick-fil-A with Trump in Atlanta. It was staged, folks. And it also makes me go back to the comment when Trump made saying that because he was indicted and going through all these legal challenges, that black folks would understand. Hey, man, like, we have a similarity. We got something in common. I got problems with the legal system. You got problems with the legal system. So, hey, I'm your guy. And you know, I think a lot of times in cases like this, I think it is very, very important, one, that we remember who we're talking about. We're talking about the same man that took out a full-page ad in the New York Times years ago, slamming the former Central Park Five, now the exonerated Five, and calling them all types of names outside of who they are, and basically saying that they were responsible for that tragedy, which they weren't. And creating a campaign of hatred around this. This is the same guy that does it. Now, that was back in the 80s. He's continued through the 90s, through the 2000s, in some way, shape, or form, has, and not only just embarrassed, but insulted the intelligence of black men on numerous occasions. And of course, leading up to this year's presidential election, we're seeing more comments and things like that. So I'm trying to understand, do they not believe that, do they not, maybe it's just me, but as a defense attorney, do you like read the room and say, wait a minute, Trump, I don't think this is a good strategy because your relationship with this group of people, with these men, is not a good relationship?
Listen, birds of a feather flock together. So the same way that Donald Trump is delusional and divorced from reality, what we have seen is that those type of people attract a very particular type of lawyer. And it is usually not lawyers who are competent or lawyers who care about their reputation. And so, first of all, even if that is a strategy you were going to use, the fact that these people that don't have enough sense to not even talk about it, that in and of itself is indicative of everything you need to know about them. But also the fake solidarity, I think that the fact that this prosecution is being led by a Black district attorney, he is going to have a lot more latitude than most attorneys to call the bull crap for exactly what it is and to stand up with a very justified sense of righteous indignation to encourage the jurors to see exactly through the fakeness and the phoniness for what they are trying to do and how they are trying to make this into a man being criminalized for a personal issue, as opposed to a man who jumped through hoops and over and above bridges to try to conceal illegal activity.
Absolutely. Shauna Marsh, my sister, checking in. Shauna, welcome back to the chat. You said they are foolish if they think this will work. I don't know what caliber of black men. As far as I know, the men I grew up around in New York City and most of my male friends don't like him. But I feel like, and Shauna, I agree with you. I just feel like some of us, and I'm talking about my brothers, some of us got this kind of a la carte type of remembrance. You know what I mean? Like, we're like, oh, well, he did that, but did he stood for this. And I think it's this weird, distorted, this is much deeper, Amber, but you can certainly speak on it. But I feel like this is this weird, distorted view of masculinity and manhood that's at play here, just as much as this is a racist trope, right? There's this ugly distortion of what manhood looks like. If you're talking about, first, bro, you cheating on your wife. So, okay, yeah, people cheat every day. But how many black men do you know is going to be like, you know what? That guy cheats on his wife, I cheat on my wife. Therefore, I get her. So, you know, it's this very weird, ugly view of what manhood, masculinity is supposed to be about. And then going back to that original point that you made, Amber, talking about that we kind of cover up for one another. I'm not covering up for a joker who don't give a damn about me.
Yes, absolutely. And I think this is also a place where, again, we forget that intersectionality matters. So in as much as he is trying to capitalize off of maleness and the bonds of maleness, he forgets that there is a very real way that Black men experience life in this country that white men do not. And so before any of the men on this jury are men, the adjective that precedes that is Black. And so I think that what happens is that you have these people who are not taking into account an intersectional framework where, yes, there is definitely a maleness and a male privilege about this that is very real. This idea that men stand in solidarity and sort of cloak other men in protection when they do these underhanded and less than integral things inside of their families. However, that is not the same thing as a Black man being willing to overlook a white man taking positions that are adverse to his literal survival. And so I just think that they are grossly overplaying their hand and the extent to which maleness will trump Blackness in this equation.
I like how you said it. Maleness will trump Blackness. You're pretty good with the words. I like how you said it. Look, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, more conversations, get more comments from you. Stay with us, folks. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, checking in with my sister, Amber Webb-Sims, attorney and co-host of the Broke-ish podcast. And we're talking about how Trump's defense attorneys are now talking about using the strategy of trying to get more Black men on the jury, as well as white working class men as well. So, you know, their approach is, look, we need to get some men on the jury. And I love how you said it, Amber, just a few moments ago, talking about creating this cloak of brotherhood around Trump so that it can lead to an acquittal. Like, what? I can't speak for white working class men. I can't speak for that because that's not my reality. But I have to say this, Amber. The more and more we hear this guy or the people around him or just any type of anything relating to this guy in terms of the view of how this guy sees himself, how he sees other people, how he moves in the world, it just becomes more and more clear that if you are a Black man or a Black woman and you go all in for Trump, it's like something, I do have to question your sanity and your intelligence at the very same time. I'm going to be honest with you. And I know some people might think that's harsh, but it's not harsh because I would rather you to say, I'm not going to vote at all, rather than for you to say, well, I understand. But the thing that I think that works in Trump's favor is that he will get you looking one way, looking this way, looking up and looking down, to the point that you're moving around so much you don't recognize what's right in front of you.
Yes.
And I think that's part of the strategy, is creating chaos, misunderstanding, double talk, all this other stuff. So your brain is trying to process it all. And then when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of a situation, you don't even know which way is up. You don't know which way is the best way to deal with it. I mean, that's what I think is the best strategy. Confusion, then compliance.
Yes. And I also want to just say to the people who are trying to miss the point and be intentionally obtuse, is that Trump's attorneys are targeting the same demography of jurors, the same demographic that defense attorneys in domestic violence cases target. The same jurors they're going after are the same jurors that criminal defense attorneys go after in domestic violence cases. They go after working class white men and black males because they believe that those are the men and those are the jurors who are most likely to say, that don't got nothing to do with me. If they want to fight, they're the most likely to acquit a criminal defendant in those types of cases. So be very clear about what is happening. Be very clear the strategy that they are using. Be very clear where they have placed this and how they are trying to do this, because it tells you everything you need to know about who this person is.
Right. That, you know what? I never knew that.
Yes, that the most jurors statistically who are most likely to acquit in domestic violence cases are black males between 18 and 35 and working class white males. Those are the jurors in the demographic most likely to find that the state has not met its burden of proof in domestic violence offenses and acquit male criminal defendants.
Wow.
Yes.
You put me on to something there, Amber.
Yes.
Wow. And you know what? It speaks to, and this goes to a much larger picture than Trump as an individual, but it speaks to the culture of domestic violence, rape culture in this country, right? That as men, we have embraced it to some degree. We've embraced some level of rape culture and abuse, and it takes for us to be very intentional in our thinking and for us to be very intentional in our own consciousness that we don't continue to either advocate for it or that we don't even, because it's about power. Rape is not about sex. It's about power.
Yes.
And if you look at, and now that you said that, it kind of makes sense because black men, we don't feel like we have power we don't feel like we have power in our homes, in our communities, and in the world. So when you're talking about power, then you're talking about the same thing for white working class men right now, where white working class men say, oh, I got to get my country back. I don't have any power. I used to be on top. I used to have the privilege. Now that's being challenged. That's being challenged by black women. That's being challenged by this new consciousness that's emerging in this country. So it speaks volumes, but I think it goes back to what I said, like that rape culture, that now we even have to ask ourselves the question, are we normalizing certain behaviors and certain mindsets that opens the door for domestic violence to happen, for infidelity to happen, for disrespect of women to happen? Are we just doing this to ourselves as men?
That's exactly right. And we have to interrogate a lot of the things that we believe for so long, like what happens between a man and a woman stays between a man and a woman. What happens in the house stays in the house. A lot of those pathologies are the exact pathologies that attorneys play on in strategies like this. Well, it's none of our business what happens between that man and that woman. If she wants to take his money and not say anything, that doesn't have anything to do with me. I'm not going to get involved in that. That's their business. If that man wants to pay that lady and then she doesn't say anything, it's not my business where the money comes from. Well, no, it's not our business where the money comes from when it is properly and legally designated. But when you go through steps to illegally conceal campaign finance monies that are donated by people to fuel a public campaign, that is illegal. And that is why we have to keep making the main thing the main thing. But his attorneys, like you said, are going to do a very good job probably of trying to make a muck, trying to confuse the issue and make this about a situation between a man and a woman that is personal, that has nothing to do with law enforcement.
And then very quickly, we got about 30 seconds left, but I want to get your take. Like, how far, how successful? Because some of the critics that was written that against this strategy, saying that this is insane, that this is not working. But as a lawyer who understands jury selection and who understands this process, and I don't know how many of those individuals that were quoted in the article understood that this is not just about Trump, but in all domestic violence cases, black men and white working class men are often the go-to people. So how far do you think that this strategy will go? How successful do you think this will be for the defense attorneys of Trump?
Well, I think if the prosecution stays vigilant, because we have to remember, juries are not selected. People are actually deselected. So you deselect, and then who you're left with becomes your jury. And so one of the most powerful tools in an attorney's toolbox is the right to raise what is called a Batson challenge, which is based on the Supreme Court case Batson versus Kentucky, which states that it is illegal to strike a person from a jury for their race, their sex, their religious orientation. And so I believe that if the prosecution stays vigilant and asserts Batson challenges, if necessary, against this defense strategy, where we see them striking disproportionate amounts of women or black women or white women or non or people who don't fall into the demography they're targeting, hopefully the court will sustain those Batson challenges and refuse to allow the defense to strike people for illegal reasons.
So let me ask you this question, and before we take our next pause, this is coming from Lee Royster Jr. He said, Farajii, is the Trump team capable of identifying the specific dynamics of isolating those characteristics in black men for potential jury selection? How is that done? Can you speak to that, Amber?
So you have an opportunity, we call it voir dire in Texas, but voir dire is the opportunity for attorneys to be able to ask very targeted questions to jurors. And a lot of times you don't even ask questions about the issues, but you ask questions that give you indicators of whether people are the people that you want that are most likely to do what you say to do. So for example, when I tried cases, I asked people what channels they watched at night. Do you have bumper stickers on your car? What do you listen to in the radio? And so, yeah, the attorneys will be able to ask questions that will give them insight into whether or not they believe that certain people will be sort of inclined to agree with the arguments they anticipate making in the trial.
Okay. This is going to be very, very interesting to see how this whole thing plays out. But I am so happy that you gave us some context and some background of how this particular strategy is used, and not just in this case, but in domestic violence cases. And it speaks volumes. It really speaks volumes about not just the issue of culture with black men and white men and rape culture, but also speaks volumes about the criminal justice system, the judicial system, that they have this formula that if you want to get a man who has been found guilty or who's facing allegations of guilt for mishandling, mistreating a woman, that the best course of action is like a cheat code, is to get black men and white working class men. I mean, that's pretty sad, Amber. That's very, very sad. And I think we need to have some deeper conversations about that, because we need to change that. We need to change that. The men should not be the ones to let men off of the hook when women are disrespected or mistreated or abused and all of that. Like, it can't be. Cindy D, one of our great culture crew members, she said, Trump don't want any woman on the jury. We know that's the truth.
Absolutely.
He don't want no women, let alone he don't want black women on the jury.
That part.
That is it. Amber Webb Sims, I appreciate you as always. Thank you so much for your legal expertise and insight. How can people find you on social media and tune into your podcast?
Brokish can be found anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can follow me at Amber W. Sims on Instagram, and you can follow Brokish Podcast at Brokish Podcast. So thank you for having me, Farajii.
Thank you, and we truly appreciate you, and we look forward to having you back on soon, Amber. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank y'all.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about Black men who are doing some very positive things. We're going to be checking in with the group of organization that's doing its part to advocate for Black jockeys to be honored and to be shown the proper respect they deserve at this year's Kentucky Derby. We're going to have that conversation up next. Also, we'll want to look at the issue, some other issues that we got on the agenda. So stay with us. We got a lot more to cover in the second half of the culture right here on the Black Star Network.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. This is an opportunity for us to be able to speak to our issues. Y'all better understand something real quick. We ain't going nowhere. It is a continual battle that we see all across this country. Revolution will not be televised. The revolution will be streamed.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
He makes sure that our stories are told.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney, and if you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation as we've been having some great discussions. In the first half, we checked in with my sister, Amber Webb Sims, attorney and co-host of the Brokish podcast, to talk to us about the latest case with Black running group Trailblazers and how they're following a lawsuit against the Boston Marathon for discrimination and racial profiling. We talked a little bit about that, and we talked about how former President Donald Trump's defense attorneys are employing a strategy of trying to get more Black men and working class white men on the jury to possibly lead to an acquittal of the former president for this hush money trial. So we will see. And there's some breaking news that have happened that there have already been 6 members of the jury that have been sworn in for the trial. So this is moving along very, very fast. And again, folks, for former President Donald Trump, this is a criminal trial. And he is facing prosecutor Alvin Bragg in the state of New York. So we'll certainly keep you up to date on all of the latest developments as we've been streaming what's been happening on the trial on BlackStarNetwork.com, as well as make sure you stay tuned to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Now, speaking of the network, make sure you go to our website today at BlackStarNetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media, and we would love to connect with you there. Just follow us at Black Star Network. And more importantly, we ask for your support and to be a donor, to be an investor, to be a stakeholder. So your support makes a world of difference. It means everything to us. Without your support, we can't do the work that we are called to do here. So your support means everything. So make sure you drop a little something in the bucket for us. And we're also streaming on Amazon platforms. Make sure you check us out on the Amazon News on your Fire TV. Make sure you check us out on Amazon Prime Video, where you can find us on the Prime Video app under Live TV The News, or find us on Amazon.com under Prime Video The Live TV The News. We're on the Freeview network, so make sure you find us on now under Black Star Network for news, as well as Plex TV, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just search for Black Star Network or find us under Live TV The News and Opinion. Folks, now we want to do our due diligence to honor brothers who are doing the work. They're not going to sit on the Trump jury. These are brothers that are doing something else more special and much more impactful, that we're going to be checking in now with the group Black Menswear, which is a cultural impact organization and collective global group of professional Black men who have exclusively partnered with the Kentucky Derby to curate a national tour and a series of events across the U.S. to bring more awareness to the historical underpinnings of Black excellence that have been at the foundation of horse racing. And so they kicked off this tour earlier this month in cities such as Los Angeles and Oakland, and they're continuing to do this tour during the racing season. And this tour will include events such as a Derby fashion show, culinary inspiration, and cocktails. They'll be educating audiences all across this country about the legacy of Black jockeys and how they were some of the earliest winners of the Kentucky Derby. Many people don't know that fact. And they also talking about how Black jockeys have dominated horse racing and made the Kentucky Derby what it is today. So we want to welcome down to the Culture here on the Black Star Network, Neandre Brossard, who serves as the CEO of Black Menswear. Neandre, thank you so much, brother, for joining me today. How are you feeling?
Nah, thank you for having me. I feel really good, man. I feel blessed to be able to share this this platform with a good, strong brother like yourself.
Oh, brother, we're trying to do our part. You know what I'm saying? You make me feel a little underdressed right now because you sharper than, you cleaner than the Board of Health, brother Neandre. I can't.
You gotta represent. I gotta represent.
I love it. I love it. I talked a little bit about the work that y'all doing. Y'all, it's interesting because your name of the organization is Black Menswear, but you're really about cultural impact, taking, you know, having these very important like educational conversations, and you also combined it with fashion.
Yeah.
So talk to me about the inspiration behind Black Menswear.
Man, so you know, the movement behind Black Menswear is all about empowering Black men in our community to feel good about themselves, to feel motivated about themselves, and then also feel as though they're not on an island by themselves, right? And this movement that we have really sparked out of a lot of the police brutality that we saw in the late, you know, the middle 2000, 2015, 2016, that sparked a cry on our end to showcase more positive imagery of Black men. We fast forward that to our flash mob movement, which has, you know, taken over really kind of the branding of our organization to where we bring hundreds and hundreds of Black men together around the world. We just, you know, had a weekend last weekend in Oakland that made it to the Shade Room last night for positive imagery of Black men in Oakland, which those stories of Black men in Oakland are overwhelmingly negative, which was the reason why we started this platform, started this community, because we want to compound some of this momentum in our community that gets Black men forward thinking, more progressive, and less constrained to what society tells us that we are not, right? Society tells us that we aren't worthy. Society tells us all these things about ourselves. So really being able to take our platform and to shed more positivity on Black men is really how we got here today.
Look, I got to take a quick pause, brother Neandre, but when we come forward, I want to kind of get your take on, you know, why is it important? And I know it's important.
Yeah.
Why is it important for us to honor Black jockeys now? And what has been the holdup since then? You know, with your organization having this exclusive partnership with Kentucky Derby, that's big because we know that horse racing is still a very exclusive event. Let me just say that, right? Yeah. It's a very exclusive event. So we want to talk a little bit about the work that y'all doing on that end on the other side. Folks, stay with us. We're checking in with Neandre Brossard from the CEO of Black Menswear. I would love to get your take on this crew as we're talking about honoring Black jockeys at the Kentucky Derby. You stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. This is an opportunity for us to be able to speak to our issues. Y'all better understand something real quick. We ain't going nowhere. It is a continual battle that we see all across this country. Revolution will not be televised. The revolution will be streamed.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
He makes sure that our stories are told.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by our very special guest, Mr. Neandre Brossard, who serves as the CEO of Black Menswear, as we talk about honoring Black jockeys at this year's Kentucky Derby. And Neandre, again, we thank you so much, man, for being with us today. Talking about the work that y'all doing. Yes, an intersection of history, fashion, and social justice, which is interesting. You gotta love Black folks for our originality of creating this space like this. And I'm wondering, why is it important for us to even have a conversation about Black jockeys this year? Not to say that it shouldn't be, but for those who might be saying, well, why are we even talking about this? Was there any particular moment, event, something that caused us to say, you know what, we need to stop a little bit and reflect on what Black jockeys has done for this game, and more important, what it's done for this part of the culture? Talk to me about that, brother.
Yes. So to be honest with you, man, this is actually our year 2 with Woodford Reserve and the Kentucky Derby, right? So last year, it's kind of like you have your test out moments. And so when we talked with them last year on the Derby experience, there was, within our conversations, it's like, well, how do we make this make sense to us as a culture, right? Because you hit it the nail on the head earlier. The Derby is a very kind of, you say, an elitist event. Yeah. And you think about elitists, that's something that we have often been ostracized from based on access and based on resources. And so when the conversation around, okay, well, how do we make the Kentucky Derby relevant? That's where the history came into play. And we started learning about this history that, you know, of the first 15 jockeys to win the Kentucky Derby, 13 of them look like me, right?
Jeez.
We're talking about the the 1800s, early 1900s. So we understand the reason why.
Wait a minute. Hold on, brother Neandre. Hold on, brother. What?
Yeah.
The first first 15 jockeys that won the Kentucky Derby, 13 of those 15 were Black.
Yes, sir. 13 of the 15 winners were Black men.
Wow.
And you know, again, as we go into this pivotal year, because this is the 150th race of the Derby. And so as we circle back with our partners this year, they were like, you know, we love how you guys talked about that and drew more realism to the fact that there is this culture, this connectivity of Black America and the Kentucky Derby, no matter how we spin it that it's not. And so we really leaned into it this year to really share those stories of these jockeys who were pivotal in making this event a success because of how early on they were able to have that success and really bring this event and make it a staple event. Like I say, that now we're celebrating 150 years later with this year's celebration of the Kentucky Derby. With our events that we're doing, every one of our events that you go into, you see the jockey story, right? From cutouts of the jockeys, of these individual men to share their stories in small snippets, to little booklets that we've published that highlight the Black jockey story. Our desire for this is not really to shed light on the Kentucky Derby in itself. our desire for this is to showcase more Black history that's ingrained in this country that's often overlooked.
Let me ask you, what has been the feedback that you've gotten from the Kentucky Derby? Have they been, I mean, we know that Black Menswear has this partnership, but was that a difficult partnership to forge, or were they like, you know what, finally somebody came in here and kind of held us accountable, we welcome you here? What's been the energy of the partnership?
So it's actually been fairly collaborative, and I say that because and I also say it too, I don't know how often they try to pick up this conversation without having the right partners that can relay the story, right? But what I know is God put us here to have this strategic partnership, so that way we are the ones that can help to elevate this story around the Black jockey. Because again, we're in a unique place in history where, you know, there are some states that are trying to legitimately erase our struggle from history. But, you know, I look at our struggle as just the means to an end. Where we are today, we couldn't be there without those struggles that we had, but we can't erase those struggles because those give us the motivation. They give us the empathy. They give us the desire to do bigger and better things. And so we can't eliminate that. So our goal, again, with this is to be able to share those stories, to shout it from the mountaintops that we are a part of this history in a way that without the Black jockey experience, to me, I really think that there would be no 150th racing of the Kentucky Derby this May.
So will the Kentucky Derby, I'm from Baltimore, brother, so, you know, I'm familiar with those three pivotal races, right? Preakness has always been a major event in Baltimore. For this 150 celebration, can we expect some different acknowledgement, something special that the Kentucky Derbies or at the Preakness race that will be done that's going to honor these Black jockeys?
So I am not sure what it'll be like once we place our feet in Louisville. I do know that there is a lot of energy around showcasing different parts of the history. So I'm very optimistic that they will not miss this moment. We will be there. So even if they miss the moment, we're not going to, right? But we are looking forward to. Yeah, we are looking forward to being able to, and really so we're working with the Churchill Downs team out in Louisville, Kentucky, for the Kentucky Derby, and they are, you know, they're very leaning into us on speaking through this, having PR press runs while we're in Louisville to speak about our experience and partnering with them throughout the country to highlight these Black jockeys. So, like I say, if they don't, we will.
No, that's dope, because it makes me think of this model now, and I don't know if this crossed your mind, Brother Neandre, or not, but it makes me think that maybe in order for us to at least change the conversation or, you know, pushing for a more inclusive culture, that we need to create organizations like Black Menswear to go into certain spaces, like, you know, whether it's sports spaces or business spaces, to you know, to say, look, we're willing to partner with y'all.
Yeah,
we want to, you know, this is not a confrontational partnership, but this is a partnership where we want to use your resources, your platform, and just to highlight some of the things that Black folks have done to contribute to the rise and growth of this particular event, this particular, you know, institutional space. And so that's what I'm thinking about, because I don't know if a lot of us, and based on what my crew is saying in the chat, people are like 13 out of 15. We never knew about this.
Yeah.
So that gives us a sense of pride for those who do enjoy horse racing. And I don't know, you know, we're young brothers, so I don't know if we're going to be hanging out, but I'm sure our grandparents know.
Yeah.
I'm sure our ancestors, you know, were there. So it gives us a sense of pride. But how do we make sure that it just doesn't come down to being this superficial thing? Because like I said, you sharp as a tack. You clean, brother. And some of us, sometimes we are so focused on the presentation versus the actual message. Yes, y'all are well-dressed Black men, but at the end of the day, it's about history, it's about awareness, it's about empowerment. So how do you make sure that part of the message doesn't get muddled or doesn't get overlooked?
And see, that's truthfully, that's why they brought us on for this, because if you go and you look at our platform is all about storytelling. And being able to capture you in first level with the visual, and then capture you in with hearing the words that we're talking about community development, community engagement. With these events that we're doing on this national tour with Woodford Reserve, the events is less about doing a entertaining party and more about offering a immersive experience to where the individuals that are attending these events, because our first event was in LA, second one was in Oakland, we've got an event in Dallas this week, we got an event in Charlotte next week before we go to Louisville. And all of these footprints that we're building out and we're developing out for these particular events for the Road to the Derby are all focused on putting us in an immersive experience to where we're enjoying learning about the history that we have as a part of this, while taking in an elevated, high-class experience with good people. You know what I mean? And really being able to network and engage and communicate. But one thing that I learned early on in my past corporate life, when you're building a business and you're building an organization, you're trying to connect with the community, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And really, we're trying to show the value of our organization, Black Menswear, caring about our community and then offering different experiences to our community so that we can showcase different opportunities for them to step outside of their comfort zones in some places and be like, oh, okay, it's cool for me to be in these kind of rooms and taking these kind of things because I've seen it and I've experienced it, and I know I can walk into these hallways.
Hey, brother Neandra, can you repeat that one more time?
Oh, that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That was one of my sales training 101 things, where it's like you can't sell somebody a product before they know that you actually care about who they are as a human being. And that's what we try to relay through our strategic relationships with our brand partners. Because this Derby event, this is one of our numerous brand partners that we have that are understanding that we can actually showcase the ROI that comes with community engagement, community development. If you actually develop a community of people around what your organization stands for and develop that tie with them, you can have a product that flops, but your community will still be there with you and support you. And so that's what we're really trying to embrace with Woodford Reserve. Let us tell this story to where our community feels as though, okay, they're finally honoring who we are. Do we have a long way to go in society? Of course, but we're gonna take our wins along the way. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I agree.
Yeah, and so that's really what we're trying to do, is help them develop that community.
I agree, brother. You talking now, man. You talking, doctor. You talking. Lee Royster Jr., Lee, you said, I think highlighting and honoring our contributions in horse racing, Kentucky Derby is extremely important. I didn't know anything about the facts that were just shared. Absolutely. You said we recently experienced this in women's collegiate basketball regarding Caitlin Clark breaking the all-time scoring record, but Pearl Moore is the scoring leader with 4,061 points. Not honored. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I feel like very quickly, brother Neandre, that we're in a time where, and I was just having a conversation with some folks about this morning, as much as we are engaged in a lot of foolishness as a people, as a community, and in our culture, I think we're slowly, in some cases, and aggressively in others, getting out of this place because we really do yearn for something that's going to stick with us. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can stay with the ratchet stuff, and I get it. But at the end of the day, man, a lot of our people are just tired of the ratchetness. They want to know who they are, where they come from, what's the history of us in this space and that space, right? And more importantly, we want to see, okay, we want to have these conversations because we got our children behind us.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and now, like, when you come of a certain age, you want to know, like, yo, what am I leaving for my sons, my daughter? What am I leaving behind them? Because you can't leave back just some pretty words. You gotta have some history that lay the foundation for their rise and for their empowerment. So what can you speak to that for me, brother? We got about 30 seconds on it, but can you get your thoughts on that?
I'll say, man, when you look at our platform, the most important thing on our platform that we hit all the time is impact over influence. Because influence, yes, we have a lot of followers on social media, right? So that gives us that influencer status. But what are we doing with that influence? How are we impacting the lives of those that either come into our spaces, come into our environments, or hear our stories, or coming up behind us? And really leaning into that impact. What am I doing to change the outcomes of those that are around us? That's where we're really looking to lean on impact. So I'll just leave it out with that, or close it out with saying impact over influence. Don't just have an influence and not do anything with it. leverage that influence to impact those that are in your communities that need to see examples of who you are and what you can do.
That's the truth. Ain't that the truth? Impact over influence. I love it. Stephanie Humphrey channel. You said, thanks, Control Room. Amazing segment. Brother Farajii, thank you for bringing Brother Neandre on. Absolutely. My sister Lana, you said the models need to have on the baddest derby attire and hats. We are the flow they want. You want us there, watch us show up and take it back over. Come on, Lana. Lana is always advocating for Black love and excellence, man.
I was about to say, I can't wait to get there and walk through because they gonna definitely know I'm there. Once my feet touch down, oh, who's that? Who that brother over there? Yeah, for sure.
Hey, look, Neandre. What type of menswear, what type of fashion y'all gonna be exhibiting at the look at? You can tell when a Black man he hold himself like, look. I'm about to drop some stuff that y'all ain't never seen, some colors that y'all never thought. And
you know, the derby it's a safe space to wear their Easter suit on a day that's not Easter. You know what I mean?
Oh, so, come on, brother. Really, come on now. Come on.
You know,
come on, man.
The pastel colors, the patterns, I mean, it's a day where you can, like, you know, ain't nothing wrong with peacocking on Derby Day. And so
that's what it is.
I'm really excited to put some colors on. I can't tell you exactly what I'm gonna do.
You can't tell me? All right, so this is what we're going, because I know you're gonna put it on your social media.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, Neandre, talk about give us your social media, give us the social media for Black Menswear, because you got a new follower in me, brother, because I want to see y'all. I want to see y'all sharp and clean. So give us the detail.
Yes. So the platform is Black Menswear at Black Menswear. Our website is blackmenswear.com. My personal page is Mr. Mister Broussard, Broussard, on Instagram as well. You can find us on LinkedIn as well. But again, we're very excited to connect with more followers, to continue to grow this movement that we have, because it's necessary to feel comfortable in your skin, and that's what we're trying to do.
Hey, look, we got another great culture crew member, my brother, Pastor Damon Blissett. He said, Farajii, tell Neandre to hit GQ Unlimited in Louisville, Kentucky, my old spot. So he wants you to go check that out, GQ Unlimited. Yeah, man, I'm really excited. Well, look, brother Neandre, I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you. More important, just having this conversation, the work that Black Menswear is doing to bring awareness to the importance of Black jockeys and at the big race of the Kentucky Derby. And more importantly, man, just representing so well for us, man. And I think that a lot of people, my sister Shauna Marsh said, people are yearning for substance. It's good to be seen. It's good to be, to have the nice suits on and everything, but it's nothing in comparison to a Black man that just not only wears the nice suits, but know himself. Sure. And has some level of some consciousness, and he brings that, he shares that, he offers that, and he redefines that within the culture. Man, oh man, brother Neandre, thank you so much, brother, for being so good for the culture. Once again, give out the website so folks can join you on your national tour.
You can find us at blackmenswear.com. Go and really join the flash mob. Check out the Spirited Soiree. But we're, like I said, we love expanding our family in every market that we go to. So we can't wait to see some of you guys on the road.
There it is right there. My brother Neandre Broussard. And Neandre, you got, like I said, y'all got a new follower in me, man. So I'm going to jump right on, and I'm going to check y'all out. And then I want to see y'all shine on Derby Day. So I thank you so much, brother, for joining us here on TheCulture on the Black Star Network. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about supporting Black entrepreneurs in the city of Los Angeles and all across the country. We're going to be checking in with my sister Kimberly Roth, who serves as the co-founder of Covered Community, and how they're doing their part to make sure that fundraising is there. We know that there is a huge disparity in terms of fundraising and business ownership between Black owners, Black business owners and entrepreneurs and white entrepreneurs. But this one group is doing their part to close the gap a little bit. So we'll have that conversation over on the other side. Stay with us. It's TheCulture here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Man, what a great discussion that we just had with my brother, Neandre Brossard. Make sure y'all check him out at blackmenswear.com. Now, let's switch the conversation as they're talking about history and making sure that we are known in us spaces. We got another challenge that we're facing. And we talked about a little bit about this last week as we talk about the disparity in funding and supporting entrepreneurs, particularly Black entrepreneurs. Well, there's one organization here in the city of Los Angeles that's doing their part to bridge the gap. They are a nonprofit Los Angeles-based organization by the name of Covered Community, and they're working in partnership with the University of Southern California to award $3 million to provide entrepreneurial training to underserved entrepreneurs in the state of California, particularly here in Los Angeles. And joining me now is the co-founder of Covered Community, Kimberly Rolfe. Kimberly, thank you so much for joining me. How are you this afternoon?
Thank you so much for having me. I am doing well and definitely excited to be here to have this conversation with you.
Absolutely, and I'm truly excited to have you here. Kimberly, talk to us a little bit about this organization, Covered Community. What is this all about?
So Covered Community was founded in 2015, and the goal was to improve the health and the wealth of the community. And ultimately, we founded from Covered Community what we call the Southern California Virtual Business Center, which our goal was simply to improve the financial position of the communities that we served. And this was so important in terms of making an impact within the African American community, because one of the things that we began to understand is we really make a difference and we really make an impact in our community when we start our own businesses. And being an entrepreneur since I was 13 years old, I understood, how important it is to have businesses in our community that can hire people within our community and ultimately create jobs that create careers that ultimately give people an opportunity to become homeowners and own their own communities. So Absolutely. For us, this work was really important.
This is very important, and there's a lot of conversation right now, Kimberly, as you know, around fundraising, around supporting Black entrepreneurs, particularly Black women who are in the space as entrepreneurs. What, first and foremost, as you see this ongoing battle, as you see that there are people and forces that are against the rise of Black entrepreneurs, what do you see happening over the next 3 to 5 years? Is the landscape going to be more welcoming to Black entrepreneurs, or should we expect to see more challenges?
I think that at the end of the day, we just have to make our own mark and we have to pave our own way. I would love to be able to say, oh yes, it's going to be great for us. But we know, what history has, already told us that it's never an easy plight for us when it comes to starting our own businesses, raising the capital that we need for our businesses, and really getting out there and excelling and growing our businesses to the level that we need to. So, I say, it's just important for us to get out there, be strategic, pave our own path so that at the end of the day, we don't have to worry about who's doing what. Because if during a time, when Madam CJ Walker started her business, if she could create a thriving business, I know we can create thriving businesses today. And that's what we're ultimately out here doing. So, I think what it comes down to is, what's our strategy? How do we move forward? How do we ensure that we create the kinds of businesses that we need in our community? And then how do we get the support and the backing behind those businesses? As when you first launch a business, nobody really believes in it. The support is not there. The resources aren't there. But when you put in enough work and you really pursue that business and build it strategically, and you start making an impact, that's when people begin to notice, and that's when people begin to get on board with what you're doing. So that's what we're focused on. We're focused on teaching our entrepreneurs how to scale and grow businesses. Our focus primarily is we teach them how to do that using corporate and government contracts, because one of the things that we've learned is corporate and government contracts is the fastest way to grow a business to $1 million.
Well, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because last week we talked about it on a show, Kimberly, where we talked about that historic decision that was made last month with the situation around the Minority Business Development Agency, and how the judge in the state of Texas said that essentially that this particular agency that was set up and designed to provide funding and resources and other needs to minority business owners were discriminating against white business owners, and ruled that, you know what, this agency needs to open the doors to white business owners. So when those type of decisions are being made, and the work that you're doing at Covered Community, how do you make sense of it all? How do you challenge that?
So this is my thoughts right out the gate. I always ask the question whenever I'm in front of an audience or I'm speaking to people: when did diversity exclude people? I always thought diversity was an opportunity to give everyone a seat at the table. So when we start talking about diversity is a way to exclude different groups, I just don't subscribe to that. And I think that the approach and the mindset that we have to take is recognizing that we're going to fight and we're going to push for diversity so that we continue as business owners to have a seat at the table. But it was never the intention of diversity, equity, inclusion, or any of those type programs to exclude anyone. So when I say to, that the ruling that occurred, I just think that it's just another way, to shift the focus from what's really, the key issue is, and that's making sure that everyone has a seat at the table. And so that's what we're focused on. And so when people start saying, well, it excludes this group or that group, that's just simply not true.
Well, yeah, that's not true. But, and I think it's interesting because it forces us to become more creative as a group of people, where we have to figure out like a new pathway. And you mentioned this, and I think you're right on point, that government and other institutions, quasi-government institutions like the Minority Business Development Agency, how these institutions have paved the way. But now I feel my great concern, Kimberly, is that now that government is in an uncertain place, we are seeing more in each and every day that government cannot handle the growing needs of a more diverse group of citizens in this country. Every group of people want to be seen and heard and supported and all of those things. So now Black folks, who I believe was the foundation of this country, we are at a crossroads and trying to figure out what's the best course to take, because the conversation now has shifted from Black people, Black business owners, to, okay, let's support minority business owners. Let's support business owners from the LGBTQ community. And when I say minority, more women business owners, right? You have a growing number of Asian Americans that are in business. You have a growing number of legal immigrants who come across the waters, get their papers, and set up business. And so it makes us, as Black folks, we're back in the same place again, where everyone else becomes a priority, and our pain and our struggle and our success is once again placed on the back burner. What's your take on that?
I think I'm no less frustrated than anyone else. I feel like, as you stated earlier, we paved the way for a lot of things that have happened in this country. And I see, a lot of groups standing on our shoulders and ultimately reaping the benefits. But my mindset
Come on now, Kimberly, you're about to take me to church.
But my mindset is either I can focus on, the things that people are telling me we can't have, or I can figure out how to go and get what is rightfully ours. And to me, the way that we do that is we just go aggressive about taking care of our business. We were taught growing up that we had to be the best. We had to be the ones who went the extra mile. We had to be the ones who were exceptional. And I think it's concepts like that that our parents gave us and taught us. I don't think any of that's changed. I don't think that's any of that has changed with the new legislation, with the push to support every group except seems like at times the African Americans. But what I do think it does is it reminds us of what our position is and how hard we have to work to ensure that we make an impact not only in our own personal families, but in our communities, and so that we ultimately leave a legacy and an inheritance in our own communities. And we're going to do that by just putting in the work. Like
Absolutely.
I said, if Madam C.J. Walker could do it during her time, we could definitely do it during our times.
Look, we got to take a quick pause, but Kimberly, when we come back, I want to get back to some of the work that you guys are doing as you partner with USC and some other institutions and organizations and agencies. Folks, we're going to continue to talk about supporting Black entrepreneurs in the city of Los Angeles and in the state of California on the other side. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. We've been checking in with my sister, Kimberly Rolfe, who serves as the the co-founder of the LA-based nonprofit organization, Covered Community, where they're working in partnership with the University of Southern California, USC, and has been awarded $3 million to provide entrepreneurial training to underserved entrepreneurs here in the state of California. And I wanted to kind of talk a little bit more about this effort, this readiness program. $3 million, it's a lot to an individual and to businesses that need it. And so I'm wondering, like, how is this program going to roll out? How is it going to touch some of the Black entrepreneurs and other entrepreneurs in the state of California, Kimberly?
Well, this is a program that we are used to doing. And, I know a lot of times, when business owners hear, oh my goodness, there's another program, they get a little apprehensive thinking, I just don't want to go through another program that at the end of the day just does not yield the type of results that I'm looking for. But our program is very different. I've told every entrepreneur and I tell every person I speak to, our program is second to none. Our program is called Capacity. And with that capacity training, what we do ultimately is we work with small businesses to secure corporate and government contracts. So what does that mean? Well, this year we are on a mission. We are on a mission to lead an entire community of small businesses on a journey to secure $1 million contracts. And so you might say to me, well, Kimberly, well, how are you going to do that? Well, first and foremost, while I am one of the co-founders of Covered Community, the other side to that is many years ago, not only did have I always worked under contracts, but I secured my first $1 million contract. And as I secured my first $1 million contract, I began to teach other small businesses exactly what they needed to do in order to get there. So I could take them step by step. And a matter of fact, not only did I teach it in a class, but I eventually wrote a book called Capacity, the Roadmap to Secure Corporate and Government Contracts. And thus far, we've helped small businesses secure nearly $500 million in contracts.
Wow.
Tell me what other organization can say that.
Wow. Wow. $500 million.
$500 million in contracts. We are not playing.
No, not at all. And here's the thing, though, and this is something that I read because we were talking about this issue just a little bit last week. But I read that, one, that a lot of these Black business, or a lot of Black-owned business ran by Black women. Also, that there is a high number of employees that these Black businesses and these entrepreneurial efforts have employed. So I'm wondering, in terms of that level of impact, what kind of impact will that have on the California state revenue, or what kind of impact will that have on a city like Los Angeles, where you have and I know this might be surprising to some folks, but LA is only composed of 8 to 9% Black people. Back in the day, there were a lot more, but now there are a lot less. And I even also read, Kimberly, from Afro LA News, where they talked about 1 in 10 Black person that comes into LA is now becoming where the Black immigrant community of Los Angeles is growing exponentially year after year. So how does that all play into empowering these type of programs with these efforts? How will they empower these communities to really revitalize the Black community and entrepreneurs here in LA?
Well, as you know, LA is a very expensive place to live.
You don't say, man.
And because
LA, boy. You gotta pay for this sunshine.
Right. And because it's such an expensive place to live, it's gotten to the point where, you've got a lot of African Americans who have just moved out of the city and seek places, obviously, that are more affordable to live, because maybe they don't want to go to work, and every dollar they have to just spend on just the cost of living. So it's getting to the point that LA is a place where you can't just live here with a job. Most people have some sort of side gig, or those who are really thriving have a business. So it's really getting to the point where it's a place where you need your own business, or you need some sort of significant side gig in order to really be able to survive where we live. So when you talk about impact, the impact that it makes is huge, because when I can take you from, let's say like the reentry population, I can take you from maybe being in a situation where you had no control over your life, and now starting a business, rebuilding your life, and getting to the point where you're completely financially sustained, and as well as eventually independent. Well, that changes everything. That's a game changer. It's not only a game changer for you, but it's a game changer for your family. I like to think about one business owner that we worked with who went through our program as a 60-year-old woman who had been in business nearly 20 years in janitorial services. She talked about how she had just gotten her GED, and she complained all the way through my program. Within 4 months of going through our program, we had taught her how to pitch. She pitched for a $5 million contract. So, and won it.
Wow.
And so now,
within 4 months?
Within 4 months. And now all she does is sing our praises because she said, Kimberly, I complained because I barely got my GED, and your program was like doing a master's in contracting. I said, but if you stick with us, we're going to teach you what you need to know in order to take your business to a whole nother level. I'm not in this to just, have a program. I win contracts. I still win contracts. But if I can make an impact and a difference in my community, if I can begin to show other business owners how you too can change not only the trajectory of your family, but your community, that's what we're looking to do. That's what we're aiming for. And that's why our program is so impactful, and it has results that are unusual.
And I love to hear stories like that, and I'm glad that that's being done. I want to get a sense of, from you, Kimberly, we have been talking about the power, the value of Black businesses for years, right? Yes. Especially, I would say, especially since Obama has been in office, right? We've been talking about this for some time. But now we have, when you look at the numbers, we know that Black businesses, y'all have made a mark. Entrepreneurs, Black entrepreneurs particularly, have made a mark on the industry, on the marketplace, and all of that good stuff. But how do we create businesses that are going to lead to the liberation of Black people in other areas, right? Where it's not just about bringing in money for profit, but it's about bringing in money that we can start to use to invest in other things. Maybe, a for-profit business can help to fund a nonprofit business that can help to fund a community initiative, and creating a pipeline of support for the community, right? It's good that we do have Black businesses in the community, but I'm from Baltimore, live out in LA. So we can have the food spot, the little clothing retail spot. We might have the incense spot, like we got down in Leimert Park, you know what I'm saying? Like we might have all of these different things, right? But even though they're nice when you're walking down through the neighborhood, through our neck of the woods, but I'm talking about operating at such a large level that now these businesses are the primary funders of the projects that we want to use, whether it's for community beautification, educational programs for our children, liberation programs, however we want to call it. But how do we get to that place? Because we're bringing money in, and money is coming out of our community each and every day. Yes. But what's not staying in our community is a changing of culture, new institutions that will help to empower the community. And I want to know, I think we've mastered setting up businesses and running businesses, but how can we use businesses to serve as the foundation of a different reality in our community?
I love this question. And the reason I love this question because it's important for us, as you stated, we can't just create businesses that support ourselves. We have to build businesses that grow beyond us. We have to create businesses that are bigger than us, that have impacts that are beyond us. And the way we do that is we work to create businesses that are scalable. What does that mean exactly? It's creating businesses that ultimately at some point take on a life of their own and that can operate without us. That means businesses that have systems that can continue to scale and grow so that it's just not in Leimert Park, but you're actually starting a business that can be in every city throughout this state and this country. And that's one of the reasons why we partnered with University of Southern California. I was actually a professor at USC in the Marshall School of Business when I developed this program. I owned my own accounting firm at the time. And one of the things that I began to teach and share with students was about scaling a business. Because scaling a business is not just simply opening the local retail store and saying, "Hey, let me see how many clothing items I can schedule. I can sell." It's about figuring out, how do I create this clothing store on a national and an international level, so that not only am I in business, this to support myself, but I'm creating a business that is nationally and internationally known, and that grows to the point where we have to hire people from almost every city we work in or wherever we have warehouses, etc. So we're taking that model and essentially training our businesses so that they actually have the capacity to be able to create businesses that are so much bigger and so much grander than just the little mom and pops. So being able to utilize, for instance, some of our USC resources, professors, experts who actually know business is really what's becoming a game changer for a lot of the businesses that go through our program.
This sounds like a phenomenal opportunity.
It's exceptional.
And we don't have to say it again, Kimberly.
It's exceptional.
It's exceptional. You're like, no, bump phenomenal, Farajii. It's exceptional. I got you.
Exceptional.
But you know what? And we don't have the time today, but I think that we need to have a different conversation about our view of our own businesses, right? And I know there's stuff that's been on social media, like what you expect from a Black business versus what you expect from a white-owned business and all of those things. But I'm saying that there needs to be a cultural shift in our thinking first around this idea, because it's one thing to just, like you said, to have a business for profit and just to support yourself and family. It's another thing when that business, like in Baltimore, there were businesses. There was a restaurant called Terra Cafe. Of course, they sold food and it was a restaurant, but then at the same time, it became this community space.
Oh, wow.
Right, where those things, where events would take place, whether you talk about something that's more lighthearted, like a poetry slam, to more heavy stuff where there was like social justice organizational meetings and things, right? And I know that for our community, I can't speak about anybody else's community, but for our community, we need those type of spaces and businesses, and they need to be supported. They need to be supported on a daily basis, because we love being in somebody in our own space.
Yes,
I love it. I love it.
Absolutely.
But if you look at your average Black business, they're not packed every day. You know what I'm saying? They get a couple of walk-ins here and there. We get great conversation, but you can't run no business off of great conversations and
right. That's absolutely. You're absolutely right.
Conscious talk. You can't run no business off of that.
You're absolutely right. And I think you make so many great points. You know, keep in mind that oftentimes African Americans will start service-based businesses, food-based businesses, because they're a lower barrier of entry. So it's easier for us to access those businesses. And I recognize that. And I recognize oftentimes, you know, those tend to be the hub of our community. But I think where our focus is, we're looking to build $1 million enterprises with our community, because at the end of the day, we all know that there's one thing that speaks louder than any words, and that's the power of the dollar.
Yep.
The more we can create enterprises that impact our community, that employ our communities, that support our communities, that's where we're going to make the biggest difference.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And for us to look back, you talking about history, and as we wrap up, talk about history, those businesses in the back in the day, they understood their role. Their role was not just to get money, but those businesses was an outgrowth of our own understanding of where we are supposed to go. They knew that they were just a small link in the chain.
Absolutely.
That the business was a part of the liberation struggle. The business was a part of the fight for freedom, justice, and equality. The business was a part of economic empowerment and growth and development. So they understood that, right? And I think we can go back to those lessons, go back to looking at those businesses and say, you know what? Let's generate a culture around that. Kimberly, this has been fantastic to have the conversation. How can people learn more about this opportunity?
They can go to scvirtualbusinesscenter.com. Like think of it like Southern California, scvirtualbusinesscenter.com. It talks about all of our different programs. We have a cohort that is starting, you guys, in a week. So definitely go on our website, register. Again, we're leading an entire community of small businesses on a journey to become $1 million suppliers. If this is something you think you want to do, go ahead and join us. You can go to coveredcommunity.com. It's also going to get you to our Southern California Virtual Business Center, where we are doing all of the training. And again, I'm looking for businesses that want to make an impact in our community by becoming $1 million suppliers, million dollar enterprises that ultimately employ and support our communities.
There it is right there. Kimberly Roth, who serves as the co-founder of Covered Community, doing some fantastic work with USC and other organizations and institutions. Kimberly, thank you so much for being with me today and having this conversation and essentially being so good for the culture.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank each and every one of you. Big shout out to you as the Online Culture Crew. I cannot thank you enough. I see you, Lana. Lana, you always showing us love and so much support, and I thank you so much. Lee Royce, I see you. Sean, I see you. Who else we got? Pastor Damon Bassett, I see you. Cindy D, Ming Lee, all of y'all. Thank you. If you enjoyed the content, make sure you go to our website today at theblackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media at Black Star Network, and we ask you to give the investors, supporters, stakeholders in this process. We are bringing Black content, having these conversations like no other place on the digital space. So we need your support. So go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Also, make sure y'all follow me on social media at The Real Farajii on IG, at Farajii on the X platform, and at Farajii Muhammad on Facebook. I would love to connect with you and continue to build community with you as we are doing our part here on air. Look, stay tuned. Up next at 6 p.m. is Rolling Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong, stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Talk to you soon. Have a great evening. Peace.